Greetings, ASA members. Well, school ended, and I guess everybody noticed. So today, the Arizona Senate met for 4 minutes. Yep, count them, 4. And they immediately adjourned sine die. And no, House members, they didn't consider any of the 28 bills you sent to them. All 13 Democrats were joined by Carter, Brophy McGee, and Boyer on the motion to adjourn. So we now await the calling of a special session or sessions by Governor Ducey. 1,607 bills were introduced this year. 89 were passed by the legislature, and 58 have been signed into law. The remaining 31 have been transmitted to the governor, and he now has 10 days to sign these bills, or do nothing, or veto them. Now, if he does nothing, they will become law without his signature after 10 days. Now, if a special session is called, what would ASA and educational leaders like out of that session? Well, today, that's Tuesday, May 26th, 16 Arizona superintendents met with Governor Ducey in a fairly lengthy meeting, and they had a chance to tell him some of the things they would like out of a special session and some of the things that are needed if we're able to reopen schools as planned. But one of the things that especially is needed is some funding relief and some budget stability. If we're looking at uncertainty about who will return, then we either need help from this current funding model that we're operating under, and that help could come in one of two ways. We could be allowed to operate under prior year funding. Most of our legislators don't seem to want to do that. Or a hold harmless provision could be inserted, saying that districts can only lose 2 or 3% of their budget. Secondly, we would like some flexibility in the number of seat hours required. If we're going to operate under various hybrids, especially the 890 hours of instruction required for 7th and 8th graders, that might be difficult under some of the hybrid models and schedules being considered. So that's a couple things that Governor Ducey heard today from superintendents. Now, as we contemplate school reopening issues, a big concern voiced by many leaders is who will come back. I've heard from superintendents in small and large districts, rural and urban, that many fear 20% of students, 20% won't return. And given the current year funding that we operate under, that brings up the prospect of immediate and huge revenue losses. According to a recent USA Today poll, that fear is well-founded. This poll of 403 parents who all have at least one child in grades K through 12 finds that 6 in 10 say they would be likely to pursue at-home learning options instead of sending back their children this fall, to pursue it. Now, nearly a third of parents, 30%, say they are in fact very likely to do that. That's 30%. If you're running a school district, you can't afford to have 30% of your children not return. Many districts, therefore, are considering a hybrid combination of brick and mortar plus distance learning in some combination. The polls lend support to that idea because roughly 2/3 of teachers and parents in this poll support the idea of returning to the classroom for 2 or 3 days a week and using distance learning the other days. 505 teachers were polled. This graph shows some difference between teacher views and parent views. The graph, for example, shows that teachers were highly concerned about learning losses during this 9 weeks that we've been closed. Parents weren't as concerned. The margin of error in these polls was about 5%. Finally, if that's not enough to worry you, 1 in 5 of the teachers polled said they were considering not returning this fall because of concerns. And the dog especially is not considering returning, so there you go for that. And if you think we have a teacher shortage now, what happens if 1 in 5 decides it's not worth it? Now a brief note on CARES Act funding. Arizona public schools stand to benefit from distribution of $270 million by the Department of Ed. Secretary DeVos issued guidance saying Arizona's public schools and the nation's public schools have to share that funding with private schools based on not children in poverty in those private schools, as Title I has done for years and years, but the total enrollment of children in those private schools, which completely goes against Title I. Well, she's facing pushback. Many states are now saying that's only guidance, it's not the law, and therefore we're going to follow the law and not follow the guidance. Now it appears Arizona as well is going to follow the law and not the guidance and count only students in poverty in those private schools, meaning much more of that CARES Act money will stay with public school districts and public charter schools rather than go to the benefit of private schools. So there will be no huge diversion. Okay, what's coming up? Later this week, ADE will issue its suggested guidance on the reopening of schools. People are looking forward to what that's going to say. On Thursday, AIA, the Arizona Interscholastic Association, will issue some guidance on summer activities in school district gymnasiums and weight rooms and so on. In 2 weeks, on Monday the 15th and Tuesday the 16th, ASA will offer some strategic digital sessions on issues around the reopening of schools. We'll have sessions on rural schools reopening, how they will do. We'll have sessions on urban schools, what they are doing to reopen urban schools. We'll have sessions on health and safety, new procedures for a new era. We'll have a session honoring Arizona's educational leaders, a virtual experience where we honor our distinguished administrators, our National Elementary School Principals of the Year and Secondary School Principals of the Year, and so on. We'll also have a session where the AIA explains what school sports and activities will look like in the new year. We'll have sessions on literacy learning in the COVID-19 era and how we catch kids up. So, Monday the 15th, Tuesday the 16th, ASA's digital learning experiences around the reopening of our schools. Stay tuned for those, stay healthy, stay focused on educating Arizona's kids.